They searched for missing jewelry and found a billionaire's silk-wrapped body hidden beneath the wine cellar tiles. But it was the fingerprints on the security cameras, left by her own guard, that revealed a forbidden story nobody in Beverly Hills wanted to believe. If you want more jaw-dropping true crime stories, make sure to hit subscribe and never miss the darkness beneath the headlines. But let's go back to where it all began. The marble mansions of Beverly Hills don't seem to need locks. Their alarm systems and iron gates feel more decorative than necessary. On Lancaster Lane, the lights always glowed soft at dusk, as if meant to seem inviting while promising privacy reserved for the world's most fortunate. Claudia Lancaster had lived behind those gates for decades, a self-made billionaire, widow to a Hollywood mogul, and woman of routine so rigid that her absence was noticed by house staff within an hour. Ravi Desmukh blended into these surroundings like he was born to be invisible. 32, short for his age, shoulders slightly rounded, accents softened by years of answering questions in American supermarkets rather than Mumbai streets. He wore his security uniform loosely, never quite comfortable in the pressed blue. Always careful, always quiet. The other guards called him Mr. Careful, for he was never late, never loud, never tempted to test the rules. He rarely spoke to Claudia at first. She was usually in a hurry, her blonde hair tied back in a severe knot, and her sunglasses glimmered no matter if it was sunset or midnight. She was rumored to be cold, impersonal, but to Ravi she was simply his employer, until the night it rained for 8 straight hours. Ravi manned the gatehouse, sipping instant coffee and reviewing grainy camera feeds, when he saw her emerge from a dark sedan, hair plastered to her cheeks. She struggled with the umbrella, cursing softly. Ravi ran out without thinking, shielding her under his raincoat. She was startled by his accent, but smiled, wide and unexpectedly soft. "You're new, aren't you? I always notice the ones who try not to be noticed." He smiled, feeling the flush of embarrassment, but the warmth lasted. That night, she insisted he dry off inside the kitchen, brought him tea, spiced the way she remembered from a trip to Jaipur ages ago, and told him to guard the good china. It became a joke between them. Small things changed after that. Ravi found his shifts extended, asked to escort Mrs. Lancaster around the grounds during her evening walks. She asked about his life, his family, what brought him to California. He was honest about nearly all of it: the debt, the homesickness, the hope he still held for something better. Even his working nights made it impossible to meet anyone new. Claudia listened, as if she had all the time in the world. Eventually, she began inviting him inside after rounds, insisting he try her favorite wines. "You need to learn taste, Ravi. It's the only shield against boredom in this world." Their connection deepened quietly, then urgently. What started as late-night laughter in kitchens became shared secrets, long glances in empty hallways, moments when her hand lingered over his as she poured another glass. Ravi told himself it was just kindness, a lonely woman drawn to a familiar accent, a soft presence in a world of snobbery. But it was more. Claudia was careful, always careful, but her loneliness was a forest fire, intense, consuming, impossible to ignore. Soon, Claudia's invites were more frequent, her requests bolder. She would text at midnight, summoning Ravi to the study for a security consult. She asked him to lock doors that were already locked, to notice details from years before he'd arrived. He learned to wipe prints from wine glasses, to erase camera footage from certain nights, to move quietly from her wing of the house before dawn broke. Staff gossiped. There were whispers in the kitchen, snickers on the drive. Ravi ignored them, caught between panic and excitement. Claudia gave him gifts: watches, designer shoes, cash. He took them, embarrassed, not knowing how to refuse, not wanting her to ever think he was ungrateful. But the line between fantasy and reality was crossed the night Claudia's youngest stepson arrived unannounced, confronting her about mounting debts and affairs. The argument was loud, echoing through the West Wing. Ravi listened from the shadows as Claudia's voice rose, commanding, then broke. Later, she called Ravi to the cellar, asking desperately for comfort. That evening, their passion burned through every barrier of caution. When Claudia cried in his arms, Ravi felt as if he'd won and lost everything at once. From that moment, Claudia became possessive, Ravi sensed it in how she texted, the way she asked repeated questions. "You're not seeing anyone else, right? You're not quitting on me." She grew agitated at the smallest threats. A missed phone call, gossip from a neighbor, a tabloid rumor linking her to an unknown younger man. Things reached a fever pitch when Claudia threatened to end everything, waving her phone in front of Ravi, showing him texts from a friend threatening to expose her secrets. She demanded he help her erase data, change security settings, anything to keep her world under control. On the night of the murder, a violent storm battered Los Angeles. Claudia and Ravi argued over money, trust, and the fear of exposure. Security camera logs showed Ravi following her into the wine cellar at 11:06 p.m., lights flickering as the mansion lost power. The feed came back online at 1:22 a.m., but by then, Claudia was missing and the cellar was locked from the inside. Ravi claimed she'd left for the airport, her usual way of escaping drama. But her car hadn't moved, her dog remained at the house, and her passport lay untouched in her desk drawer. In the hours that followed, house staff noticed jewelry gone, valuables missing, and Claudia utterly unreachable. It was 3 days before police found the uneven tile on the wine cellar floor. Underneath, the body, silk-wrapped, signs of a desperate struggle, the bruises, the defensive wounds. Forensics revealed what security logs could not. A tangle of fingerprints, Ravi's shoe prints tracked through spilled wine, and deleted security footage with his distinct login credentials. When police finally caught up to Ravi near the border, he was exhausted, shaking, insisting he could explain. The trial that followed tore apart Los Angeles's most exclusive zip code. Claudia's friends, business rivals, and even estranged family feuded over her reputation, fortune, and the painful question of why she let someone like Ravi so close. Prosecutors branded him a cold-blooded killer. His defense claimed broken love and manipulation by a woman whose power sometimes blurred the edges of right and wrong. The media turned it into a feeding frenzy. Scandal, sex, murder, a Beverly Hills nightmare. In the end, no excuse could mask the tragedy. A billionaire and her security guard. An affair built on loneliness and longing, ending in violence and a secret the city would never truly bury. Even after the verdict, neighbors triple-checked their locks, security guards in Beverly Hills grew cautious, and every estate with a perfect lawn seemed to harbor just a few more shadows than before. Days after that stormy night at the Lancaster estate, Beverly Hills kept its composure, but for Ravi, every minute felt borrowed. Local tabloids were first to sense something was amiss. Claudia, a fixture at charity luncheons and the social center of every fundraiser, simply disappeared. Her staff whispered about urgent business in New York, but friends bristled. Claudia never left town without a word or her beloved terrier. Inside the mansion, daily routines stumbled along. Ravi scrubbed his knuckles raw trying to remove a wine stain from the foyer carpet, his mind replaying Claudia's last gaze, equal parts pleading and defiant. Each night, he retraced his steps, counting back through the hours before her absence. Had anyone else heard their argument? Did the kitchen staff see him clutch Claudia's phone long after midnight? Sleep brought no rest. Old fears from Mumbai pressed against his chest, and each sunrise brought a pulse of dread. The house was different now, staff moving with caution, windows left open longer, as if to air out suspicion. During a shift change, Ravi caught Bianca, Claudia's personal assistant, on the phone, voice low and urgent. "No, I can't reach her. She hasn't logged into the system since Friday." "Yes, the valuables are still locked up." Ravi's stomach turned. Claudia's private jewelry case was still hidden, yet he knew better than anyone that a single missing bracelet could unravel everything. Sunday morning, as police cruisers idled discreetly outside, Ravi tried to blend in, hoping protocol would protect him. But Detective Maria Santos arrived with a small team. She moved through the mansion with brisk detachment, her gaze scanning for inconsistencies, scattered receipts, faint fingerprints, a faint trail of broken glass near the cellar door. She questioned each staff member in turn. When had they last seen Claudia? What did she seem like? Had anyone accessed the wine cellar? When Santos asked for Ravi, his hand shook, but he kept his answers bland. She was in a good mood, I thought. "No, I haven't seen her travel bags out." Yes, she always lets me know before she leaves. But the detective's attention lingered on the patched scrape at his wrist, the unearned fatigue in his eyes. Outside, the city turned. News vans appeared for a moment, filming the ornate gates. Strangers gathered in pairs, buzzing about scandal. Ravi moved through it all unnoticed, haunted by the knowledge that the line between witness and suspect was dangerously thin. That night, anxiety sent him walking the estate's perimeter. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "We saw what you took from the safe. You know it's never that easy." He deleted it, hands trembling, pulse pounding in his ears. Guilt tangled with paranoia. He began noticing details he'd always ignored before. A neighbor walking her dog too close to the hedges. A drone hovering for just a second above the garden. Meanwhile, the police investigation accelerated. Claudia's friends made social media appeals and launched their private probe. Journalists tracked her finances, speculating about secret lovers, pending lawsuits, business betrayals. The absence of her dog and car deepened the mystery. A junior detective discovered wiped footage on the security server, flagged with Ravi's username. In an instant, the investigation's gaze sharpened. No longer casual, now urgent. Days later, Bianca discovered Claudia's phone wedged in the couch cushions. Messages open but unsent. Police combed through every ping, every step in the GPS history, each deletion tracked. Ravi felt the world closing in. He began meeting Maya Varma, a soft-spoken, sharp-eyed journalist who visited under the guise of interviewing the staff. Secretly, Maya questioned Ravi in broken Hindi, urging him to consider. "People will pin this on you if you don't speak first. Think about your family." Ravi recoiled, afraid. Trust, in his world, had always been currency you spent sparingly. Pressure escalated with every unanswered call and every shadow at the gate. Detective Santos pressed Ravi privately. Why had he wiped certain security files? "I was told to update the system," he lied, heart galloping. The detective nodded, but wrote much more than he'd said. That week ended with whispers and suspicion thick in the Beverly Hills air. Ravi, dogged by memories and regret, spent his nights packing a battered suitcase, passport tucked between two shirts, Claudia's vision haunting the edge of every sleepless dream. Across Los Angeles, Claudia's smiling portrait appeared beneath the bold headline, "Missing, Billionaire last seen at luxury estate." What few knew was that love, fear, and power had already triggered an unthinkable chain of events inside those immaculate walls. The whispers inside the Lancaster estate grew heavier with every passing day. Ravi Desmukh walked the grounds with shoulders hunched and eyes averted, sensing the staff's conversation stop as soon as he entered a room. The Los Angeles sky had lost its blue polish, dulled by the weight of missing person posters and the white flashes of news cameras parked just beyond the gates. What had once felt like an opulent fortress was now a gilded cage, one in which every creak of marble, every echo of footsteps, sent fear prickling down Ravi's neck. Police pressure became constant. Detective Santos returned, never alone, moving from formal interviews to pointed interrogations. Staff were called into the sunroom and released with faces drained of color. Ravi's own meetings became more tense. Santos, always polite, now let her gaze linger too long on his shifting hands and bitten nails. "Did Mrs. Lancaster seem distressed lately? Did you notice anyone outside the estate at odd hours?" Ravi answered in short, careful sentences, sweating with the effort of sounding ordinary. Each lie left a bitter aftertaste in his mouth. At night, sleep deserted him. Guilt and panic formed a carousel of memory. Claudia's velvet laugh echoing through the empty wine cellar. Her final text message, "Lock the blue room tonight." Not just the gates, the cold press of her fingers around his wrist as they argued about the deleted files. Ravi wasn't sure which frightened him more, what really happened that night, or how easy it was for him to forget the line between protection and self-preservation. Rumors multiplied. A delivery driver mentioned seeing Ravi near the cellar at midnight, long after his shift was supposed to end. Bianca hinted to her sister that Claudia's absence coincided with odd, unexplained outages in the security logs. Even Ravi's cheapest mistakes, accepting extra cash, turning off a single camera without logging it, became flashing neon in an investigation desperate for answers. Meanwhile, media scrutiny intensified. Claudia's face, smiling, polished, frozen in wealth, became nightly news fodder. The tabloids spun wild theories, secret affairs, rival heirs, cartel debts. A Russian lover vanished years prior. But Ravi felt their unblinking gaze most acutely. Every broadcast seemed aimed directly at him, dissecting every second of distorted footage and every messy corner in the staff quarters. In this suffocating climate, Ravi's few moments of peace came on silent walks through the estate perimeter at 3 a.m. The hedges, the churring cicadas, the city's distant lights. These were his only witnesses as he rehearsed, again and again, the story detectives needed to believe. He was terrified to trust anyone, but isolation itself was beginning to undo him. His hands shook as he poured coffee. His responses lagged a beat in staff meetings. When Maya Varma, the persistent journalist, reappeared at the gates with a gentle voice and trembling hands, Ravi surprised himself by answering her questions instead of turning her away. "Do you think she's alive?" Maya asked, notebook hidden as always. Ravi stared at the ground. If anyone could survive, it was her. He regretted the response as soon as she left, convinced the words would be twisted to implicate him. But the truth was, he didn't know, and that ignorance gnawed at him with every sunrise. Tensions spiked in the estate as detectives began piecing together what they now considered a timeline. Security footage showed shadowed figures moving throughout the mansion on the night of Claudia's disappearance. A broken wine glass, small blood spatters near the back staircase, a strand of Claudia's hair snagged on Ravi's uniform button. His uniform, the same one that spent days balled up in his laundry bag, became the focus of forensic techs. Ravi's stomach churned as they bagged and labeled it while he stood frozen in the staff corridor. Staff loyalty fractured. Some avoided Ravi, whispering to police behind closed doors. Others, out of habit or fear, offered him small kindnesses, a mug of tea, a distracted wave across the lawn, silent acknowledgments of anxiety shared. The echo of Claudia's absence grew so loud that, by the end of the week, the estate's daily schedule was upended. Rooms closed, staff dismissed, the kitchen on minimal service. Ravi, expecting daily termination, clung to his routine only because it was the only thing left that made sense. His world narrowed further when Santos called him for another unofficial interview. This time it was not in the sunroom, but in the estate's cramped maintenance office, with afternoon sun bleaching the dust motes on the desk between them. Santos's tone was less cold, almost tired. "Ravi, you were never just her employee, were you?" The question, floating on stale air, hung between them. Ravi opened his mouth, ready to lie again, but something inside him cracked. "I tried to help her," he whispered. "She asked for things I didn't understand. She was scared." Santos's eyes registered a shift. She pressed gently. "Of who?" Ravi's pulse thundered in his ears. "Her family. Her business partners. Everyone. Sometimes." The interview ended with no resolution. Santos neither charged nor cleared him, simply let him go with a warning that the truth always surfaces, Ravi, even if it takes longer in Beverly Hills. He left the room trembling, knowing his world was shrinking fast. Every night that week, Ravi fantasized about running, buying a bus ticket east, disappearing among strangers. Yet guilt, fear, and a lingering sense that his fate was entwined with Claudia's kept him near. On the eve, the police announced that the Lancaster estate was now officially a crime scene. Ravi walked the gardens one last time, the distant sirens ringing out into the velvet California evening, a soundtrack for every secret the city refused to forget. The Lancaster estate stood colder than ever. The marble felt sharper underfoot, the silence heavy, broken only by the occasional echo from patrols. Police taped zigzagged through the garden gates and barricaded the wine cellar, where every sliver of dust was now a potential clue. For Ravi Desmukh, the world had become a sequence of waiting rooms, whispered accusations, and the kind of fear that sits at the base of the spine and never leaves. Detective Santos's investigation reached its peak. She paced the estate's halls with new urgency, flanked by a growing number of forensic specialists. No one called her Maria. not even the officer she commanded. To the staff, she was a relentless presence, voice never raised but questions ever closer to the quick. The days blurred into one another. Searches, interviews, gloves snapping on and off. Ravi felt exposed, his every gesture cataloged. A stutter here, a wiped brow there. The smallest inconsistencies in his routine were documented with methodical intensity. By late in the week, another discovery shifted the case. Hidden behind the racks of Claudia's prized burgundy vintages, police recovered a second phone, Claudia's private device, long assumed missing. On it, a series of desperate voice memos, short, panicked fragments addressed to nobody in particular. Mentions of threats, of betrayal, her voice trembling near tears. In one, she spoke directly to Ravi. "If anything happens, tell them the truth. This wasn't meant for you." Police analysts pored over the files, cataloging each timestamp, hoping for a missing link. Meanwhile, Ravi was running out of options. His interviews with Detective Santos grew more pointed. She pressed him about the erased security files, the late-night texts, the time he'd spent inside Claudia's private quarters. While Ravi stuck to his story, that he'd simply responded to her invitations and performed his duty, his confidence frayed. Lines blurred between what he remembered and what he feared he might have done. Each sleepless night bred new doubts. Guilt and desperation jockeyed for dominance in his mind. The mansion staff, their numbers now halved, moved about with haunted eyes. Bianca, the assistant who'd once joked with Ravi, no longer spoke to him. The cooks kept their distance, all too aware that any misstep might draw attention. Reporters sometimes staked out the property from nearby sidewalks, catching grainy photos through the gates. Ravi, head down, walking police investigators through his nightly routine. Santos examining the pool house, boxes of evidence loaded into unmarked vans. As the investigation intensified, details of the affair began to leak beyond the mansion walls. Claudia's family, her late husband's children, her brother in San Francisco, released a terse statement, their tone icy. The circumstances of Ms. Lancaster's disappearance remain under investigation. We trust the authorities to discover all relevant truths. Social media ran rampant with speculation. Some branded Ravi a gold digger. Others painted him as a tragic pawn in Claudia's privilege game. Old friends of Claudia gave interviews, often contradictory. One describing Claudia as lonely but kind, another hinting darkly at unhealthy obsessions and dangerous new relationships. Ravi, now unable to sleep for more than an hour at a stretch, turned to Maya Varma in desperation. In the garden, beneath the cover of a late afternoon downpour, he confessed more than ever before. About the gifts, the surveillance logs, the moments when affection turned to something like blackmail. She wanted me to protect her, he whispered, voice breaking. But in the end, I think she was protecting herself, too. Maya took notes calmly, but her eyes betrayed empathy and fear. When finally recalled for a formal deposition at the police station, Ravi felt completely untethered. Santos went over everything again, movements, messages, the night of the storm. There, under fluorescent light, he faltered, admitting to doctoring security footage at Claudia's request, to removing valuables and hiding evidence. But I never meant her harm, he pleaded, hands shaking. I loved her. She was all I had. Santos pressed further. Is that why you argued? Because she threatened to end it? Or threatened you? Ravi's silence lengthened. She was scared. I was scared. You want to believe love can save you. But here, love only exposes you. The statement hung in the room, heavy and damning. Police kept Ravi overnight. Forensic teams tore through his apartment, collecting uniforms, electronics, even old letters sent back home to India. In a stifling interview cell, Ravi confronted the bitter truth. The evidence, circumstantial but vast, was beginning to close around him. He felt the weight of every favor accepted, every secret concealed, every fleeting moment of forbidden happiness that, now, looked like motive to outsiders. Outside the estate, Beverly Hills stared with a kind of hungry awe. The city's elite retreated, charity invitations rescinded, house staff replaced by newcomers briefed on how to avoid the press. The story had become something bigger than anyone inside it. an allegory for privilege and danger, for how quickly lines could cross and people could disappear. As the days turned, the case approached its inevitable public reckoning. The evidence told a story everyone wanted to believe: rich, scandalous, tragic. But for Ravi, blinking in the harsh light of a police cell, the real story remained fractured. 1,000 moments, choices both innocent and damning, converged in a single night that neither love nor fear could ever truly undo. The trial drew crowds for weeks, with the gates of the Lancaster estate as much a spectacle as the courthouse steps. Inside, the air hung thick with perfume and tense expectation. Journalists jostled for quotes outside. Inside, every word became part of the city's collective memory. Ravi Deshmukh, in a borrowed blazer, looked smaller than ever as he entered. Dark circles under his eyes, posture slouched, clinging to the last threads of composure. Prosecutors painted a vivid picture: forbidden romance, escalating obsession, and a desperate man pushed to violence when threatened with exposure. They played the recovered voice memos, replayed photos of the wine cellar, and traced the digital web: text deleted, footage erased, cash withdrawn in hurried bursts. Ravi's fingerprint on the camera, the last image of Claudia waving him down the marble hall, the way he'd lingered in footage just minutes before the mansion lost power. The jury listened, silent, to Claudia's final agonized voicemails. Yet the defense didn't let him become a villain in a vacuum. Ravi's attorney spoke gently of a man out of place, lured by affection, manipulated by power, then trapped in circumstances beyond his control. They showed Claudia's messages requesting help, offering money for a problem neither could define. Maya Varma took the stand, recalled Ravi's terror and grief, his insistence that love can't undo what's done. The courtroom saw a man who had crossed too many lines, but not a simple monster. As testimony unspooled, the story's complexity sharpened. The prosecution detailed Claudia's final hours, estate records showing panic, staff hearing shouts, valuables disappearing. The forensic team explained how Ravi's hands bore scratches matching Claudia's panic, how the silk sheet was tied by wrists practiced at making soldierly knots. Defense witness after witness testified to his kindness, his inexperience, his history of trying to help those around him. But the shadow of lost privilege, of fear, hung over every day. Outside, Beverly Hills went about its business, but the saga was everywhere. Whispered poolside, debated in Pilates studios, featured in podcasts dissecting every detail. The Lancaster estate was soon put up for sale, its rooms emptied, closets swept, wine cellar floor retiled. Yet the neighbors swore the house felt colder, as if echoing with unfinished sentences. A verdict came on a blazing Friday afternoon. Ravi sat unmoving as the foreperson read, guilty of manslaughter, not premeditated murder. The precise facts of that violent night, who struck first, whether betrayal or panic pushed events past return, became forever blurred. He would serve time, but not vanish into the system. Even in punishment, ambiguity trailed him. Claudia's family issued a new statement, equal parts sorrow and relief, yet could not bring themselves to erase old photos from the hallways of their homes. Weeks after sentencing, Detective Santos boxed up the files, memories, transcripts, the last unsent text from Claudia to Ravi. Just tell the truth. She left it on top before sealing the case. For those left behind, the world continued but changed. Bianca quickly found new work, warning others to mind the lines between service and entanglement. Dinner parties in Beverly Hills spoke softly, always moving on before real answers emerged. Maya published her story in a national magazine, portraying not just crime, but the collision of hope and isolation that wealth sometimes breeds. And Ravi, numbered among the lost, sat in a small, gray-walled cell, tracing each relationship, each mistake, searching for a way to reconcile love with the ruin it left in its wake. Sometimes, in the half-light before dawn, he dreamed of the gardens at Lancaster Lane, Claudia's laughter echoing, the promise that, no matter how deeply secrets are buried, the truth will find a way to rise. The gates of the estate eventually closed for good, but the story lingered, a warning and a legend. In a city built on appearances, even the best security can't keep out the consequences of what happens behind gilded doors.